How you guys doing? Audio check out the way, and we'll get this little party started. All right, sound is good. Thank you, Nanny. I think Nanny's going to be the first official Archaix intern. Going to try her out. Kind of talking behind the scenes with Big John about her coming to Houston. Like I said, guys, Archaix Ops Center is huge, and it's going to be online mid-December. We're going to be doing everything out of there, consolidating all our efforts. No more spread out people doing their own projects. We're bringing everything under one roof. It needed to happen. Come a long way since doing videos in a wooden shack. 4.5 years. It's been some hell of a growth. I've met a lot of good people along the way. I've come into contact with people who have very interesting theories and new takes on some of the same information, coming to the same conclusions, but using different data. And that's one of our guests today. You know, he's opinionated. He's got several videos. He's done podcasts with many people. His YouTube channel is not an accurate reflection of just how much work he's put out there. He's got other links to other channels. I believe that was on Odyssey or BitChute. I was on yesterday checking out his stuff. Or it might have been Rumble. I believe it was Rumble. Actually, it was Rumble. So I still don't have a presence on Rumble or BitChute or Odyssey really like I should, but I'm not worried about right now. We're gonna let Dale Holmes carry Rumble. He's gonna carry the torch there. But I don't really have any announcements except December 7th. You guys know we're doing an OFIS presentation. But before that, on Tuesday, Waters Above Crypto and Logan Jason of Decode Your Reality. We're going to do a 3, maybe 4-man roundtable right here on Archaix on Tuesday. And for the first time, you're going to see on screen the OFIS software, how it's used, what it does. I'm not going to give you the secrets to the algorithms. No. Quit asking me. Quit emailing me about it. But you're going to see it in operation. I don't know. Jordan and Logan may just put it to the test and want to look up some things. And I'm all for that. But so anyway, without further ado, I want to introduce Dale Holmes. I believe he's an authentic Aussie. How you doing, Dale?
Hey, Jace, thanks for the intro. I'll just say, if people do try to find me, don't the YouTube. I got banned from YouTube in early 2021, so I kind of stopped posting there, and I put the odd video up there that but I've got 2 strikes on the channel again. So Rumble is the best place where I put most of my videos.
I seem to have missed that because a lot of people, David Icke, somebody I was just talking to the other day, 4 or 5 females I've come across that had channels, all got axed in 2021. It's like they did a purge. And I guess I missed that because at the time, I wasn't doing any videos like I'm doing today. Back then, it was just all Phoenix-related videos, ancient history, calendrics. I never once delved into the political arenas or anything like that. And I wasn't talking about the jab, wasn't talking about the vax or anything. So I guess I missed that purge. But I remember in 2021 when YouTube came through and just swept house on a lot of channels.
Yeah, it was quite hard to build back because I lost a lot of videos and I hadn't backed a lot of them up. But it seemed to me the last couple of years they've almost eased the censorship, and it's looking like they're getting ready for another crackdown. So you've done pretty well, but you're pretty sensible about where you go and where you don't go.
Well, Dale, I mean I have, and you're welcome to post there too, but I have Archaix TV for the real sensitive stuff.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and other people post on there too. I'm not the only one, and I'm about to. As soon as I get this Ops Center going, and we're gonna have a whole crew only on Archaix TV for all that type of. Archaix TV is going to explode. So YouTube, I've been on YouTube for a while. I don't understand. You know, I've given them plenty of reasons to ask me. I don't know why I continue. I guess it's the ad revenue. I do get 1 million views every 28 days. So they are getting their advertising out doing that. Even though I don't put ads on my channel, they still put ads in the beginning of the videos. So I don't know, but I'm ready. I'm ready for the move. If they ever ask me, I'm ready. You know what? I keep every video backed up. Not a single video I'm going to lose. I'll just upload them somewhere else.
Yeah, you're ahead of them anyway because you've got your private page, you've got all your backups and stuff like that. So I remember Max Egan. I think he was the first to go. He went very early, 2020.
Yeah, Max. I brought Max on my channel one time. Now, I've done 4 videos with him. He's actually stayed with me here in Texas 3 times. But he did one video with me called "Reset Cities of the Deep." YouTube took the video down instantly and gave me a strike, man, for having Max on my channel. But I uploaded it to Archaix TV. It's there for everybody to see now.
I'll tell you a funny one. Max actually mentioned me in a video, and the day after he mentioned me, my channel was axed. So
Wow.
I think there's something. They must have his voice. I think his voice is on the algorithm. You can't even play his voice or his name. He's just completely wiped.
It's everything. You got facial recognition, gait recognition, vocal recognition. What is it? Yeah, it's the vocal, face recognition, gait recognition software. Yeah, they got algorithms for everything. There's no way you're going to hide anymore.
Yeah, but well, I've got a few slides I want to go through here with you later, Jason. But an interesting point, because it kind of leads into what I want to talk about, was he got taken down when he was talking about the Australian bushfires, and this was before he was blowing up in 2 or 3 months before COVID had started, and that was around, I don't know if you remember, but end of 2019 into early 2020, these were the biggest bushfires we'd ever seen in Australia. And Max was uncovering a lot of stuff around that. And that was the period where he got wiped.
Yeah, so that was I remember the fires, but I also remember that the United States and Canada and Alaska at the same period that Australia was going through that, was also going through fire. It was just a multiplicity of fires in all different places. It was very highly unusual. And this was before people were really on to the DEW weapons. This was like 2020 and 2021. There were fires all over the United States, and no one was really talking about the fires having a really curious provenance. It's not like we've been talking in 2022 and 2023.
Well, I mean, that's it's been pivotal the last 4 years of, I mean, you've covered it, everything, what I've referred to it, there's an organic awakening, and there's an overriding of some other energy that's trying to hijack this natural occurrence of what's happening. And that's why I've loved the Christian revival, kind of what you refer to as a Christian Reich sort of stuff, because I was speaking about that pre-2020, that I could see this coming revival. And the more and more, I don't know if you've noted, the last 4 years, they're pushing this open kind of Satanism so much to a degree that it's become this natural counter swing over to this side that you can see it seems to be an artificial manipulation. And then you've got the likes of Russell Brand, Jordan Peterson, Candace, all the rest of these ones that you're speaking about.
Candace Owens, they're all part of this new Christian narrative.
So it's going to be very interesting times over your way into the election, and see where they go with this kind of thing, because it does appear that whether it's directly or indirectly, but over time, that Trump and that side appears to be coming in, that Christian Republican sort of side. Even if it's not directly at the start, I can see that that's where it's definitely leading.
Yeah, that's where it's leading. I mean, they could pull something. Well, first of all, for a little clarity, I just want to say that, Dale, you're talking to somebody who does not believe elections even happen anymore. I left that a couple years ago. It's the elections are a farce. Our leaders are selected behind the scenes. Trump was raised for this. He's just an actor, but he was raised for this, and so was Kamala. Kamala's history is terrible. I mean, you should never ever want a prosecutor. You got to understand what a prosecutor really is. You don't want a prosecutor as a president. And this is how she made her name in prosecution. So I know so much about the criminal justice system, man. I don't even want to get into it, but attorneys come up in the world. A lot of them coming out of college by going into prosecution. Prosecution is it's so easy. The deck is stacked against anybody who's been accused of anything. revised civil statutes, criminal procedure. All these things are against the accused, and prosecutors have basically pretty much an automatic win against about 99% of the people they prosecute and accuse of crimes. And this is a terrible person to put in the Oval Office. It's somebody who has sent many people to prison, and there's no way that her track record is 100%. Many of the people who are sent to prison are done so because their back was against the wall and they didn't have an alternative, and they realized they better take the plea deal or they'll be facing life in prison. So yeah, most people don't know 90% of the people in prison did not get sentenced to prison. They took a plea deal because the alternative was life in prison, or like personal friends of mine, they accepted probation for some light bullshit. But probation is also a trap, because if you fail probation, you go to prison. But anyway, I don't believe in that system. I don't believe that system exists anymore. It is absolutely rigged. But I agree with you 100%. They're now putting Trump into the position that he was supposed to be in according to the people 4 years ago.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's been resembled here in Australia too. We had a state election in Victoria, and the premier here, we were famous in Melbourne for being the world's most lockdown city, and Melbourne went from the world's most livable city. It was voted, for 10 years straight or something, into the world's most lockdown. And we have an ultra left-wing government in the Victorian state parliament. And even after all that COVID period, they actually increased their majority in the House after that election. So no one believes that's got a right mind that that these elections are real, even down in Australia. So and our vote, we have this thing called preferential voting system. It's not like yours, and no one knows how it works. And it's basically a whole heap of minor parties that distribute their votes up to the top parties to keep the major party in power. So it's an absolute disaster. So I don't vote. I haven't voted since I actually voted for Julian Assange in the Senate in 2012, I think. He actually ran for the Australian Senate while he was in the Ecuadorian embassy. But yeah,
it's crazy, man. It's just crazy. I know they could definitely pull something to where the Democrats come out on top, and it looks like Kamala's going to go in there. Because this is all about pulling on the emotional heartstrings of America. This is all about tomfuckery. This is what it's always been about, and then make it look like the same thing's going to happen, and that happened 4 years ago, and then at the last minute do something to disqualify Kamala, or maybe there's 100 different directions they can go. They can pull out indictments against people. They can open up new investigations. There can be an accident. You just don't know. There's no way to predict. We're pretty much in a point where you're just not going to predict an outcome right now. You're just not, because we're 4 years into a period of absolute unraveling of timelines. It's a literal fracturing of reality, and there's no way that all of us are experiencing the exact same reality. We can't, because there are people so brain dead, brainwashed into this liberal mindset. They do not experience reality the same way that a conservative does. And the liberals and conservatives in their own spheres of reality don't experience the world the way someone like I do, because now I'm completely independent of both systems. Now I am sickened by both. And I'm on the outside. I'm on the outside looking in at this phenomenon. It's like it's all a stage. It's almost as if, Dale, 4 years ago, they've already sealed all the vaults to the underground facilities, and everybody left on the surface are puppets just playing a role, played to pay that role. And everything in politics since they fenced Washington, D.C. is totally staged, just to keep us believing in the myth until the Phoenix phenomenon happens. That's all. To me, that's what every month that goes by, this online farce, this digital reality that's getting weirder and weirder and weirder, seems to me that it's all distraction. It's almost as if they're trying to distract the entire surface world with a whole bunch of distractions, so no one really figures out what's really going on.
Well, I've noticed. I think it was Adam Schiff that put something towards Congress around bringing in new legislation for artificial intelligence, and he said that it was the threat of deep fakes, which makes me wonder because then Taylor Swift also put up
Mm.
a post with a cat the day after the debate, and she announced that she was going to be voting for the Democrats. But she did that as a response to some post that came from I think it was a Trump page or someone connected to him that was
Mhm.
a fake of her. So I've seen this push too that what you're going to see may not be real. That's coming from the
Exactly.
establishment. What you may
Exactly.
see is not even going to be real. So I wonder
Yeah.
what videos and stuff could be released or whatever it may be, because and this is perfectly clamped for the time where they're bringing these mis and disinformation bills all across the West at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I've got my ideas about the next 12 months. I haven't really shared them too much. It's I want to have my specifics down before I actually go into the detail, but
Yeah.
I don't think the transition is going to be a peaceful one. I do believe 100% that like the Western world is about to get a break, but it's going to be after a catalyst. There's going to have to be a catalyst. Too much tension has been built up in the past 4 years for it to be anything peaceful in whatever transition occurs. Tension has to be released. Anytime there has been a whole bunch of ebb, there has got to be an equal amount of flow, or it's going to create a huge imbalance, and the system doesn't work like that. It's very chaos and order is very organized. So, just in a nutshell, have you seen any evidence? This is the scenario I propose, and let me know if you see any evidence for this. Okay, the knife attacks by migrants recently when the Olympics kicked off. During the whole Olympic 2 weeks, it was going off all over Germany, all over France, parts of Spain, and especially the UK. And it really hasn't subsided. They're just not reporting it a lot. But the people that live in those countries say the local news is always talking about more and more knife attacks. So this to me was the very beginning of the second seal period. But it too is only one layer of the interpretation.
Yeah.
A deeper layer of the interpretation, we're talking about the Greek. It means dagger. So not long sword like the Judeo-Christians said. So I'm now finding out that there's a new technology called dagger that is it's a technology that weaponizes the weather. So I'm looking into this right now before I go deeper into this, but it shocked me that weather weapons would be controlled by a system known as dagger. So
Wow.
this is what we've been seeing 3 times now. Beryl was not natural the way it had moved and hit Houston and hit my town here in Willis. I'm way upland, and then when you know what happened to Florida, you know what happened to the Carolinas, and I just don't know. But it seems to me that for the next 4 years, we're going to be going through eco terror, not just violent knife terror, but it's going to be, different areas of the world are going to be getting hit by different things, and not just hurricanes. So, this is the first phase, I believe, but I think 2025, 2025 next year, I believe there's going to be an all out like multi-tiered assault by all these migrant fifth columners through all these Western nations. It's not slated for 2024. It's not going to happen this year, but I believe 2025 it's going to happen, and there's going to be, like in the United States, like a patriotic fight back, and city by city will be declared to be clean. And different states will declare we took care of our problem. We fought them back. We've got them detained. We're good. And then after like a 6 month or a year period, different countries will start reporting, hey, oh, we cleared out. We're good. And it's a false victory given back to the conservatives and given back to the Western world, making it look like they fought for like a second revolutionary war, second free. This is what things look like to me. And it looks like Christianity is going to be the standard of this victory, a false version of Christianity, a political Zionism that's going to claim victory over Islam in 2025.
Well, Jason, do you know, after watching your first seal decodes, and then when you broke down the Greek translation of the Macchiaro, how it's pronounced. I'm actually can I share a slide here?
Sure, absolutely.
This is
What you
exactly
got?
How do I share?
Oh, present at the bottom,
Oh, yep.
and then share screen,
Share screen.
and then share entire screen. You click on the entire screen.
Entire screen. Yep. Okay.
Should pop up in just a second, and I'll share it.
It says Chrome right. Lost permission to capture the screen. System preferences. Hang on. Yeah, it's not allowing me. I'll
Hold on. Let me look at it. I'm gonna let's see. I'm gonna share my screen. When I go to share screen, I hit the blue button that says share screen. At the top, there's one that says entire screen. It's the third option.
Yeah.
When you hit entire screen, it shows you a screen. You have to click onto that screen, and then it shows a blue button share below that.
Yep. Present. Share screen. Entire screen. Clicked on it.
I got it.
Oh, you got it. Excellent. Well, there you go. I'm impressed I was able to do that. So what can you see here? Can you see this?
Mm-hmm. I see Project Apollo. I haven't heard of that one.
All right. Now this is why I wanted to show you these ones, and I could get onto some about this building that we mentioned to you when you did a chat for us here in Australia, and one of my friends, Nikki, came on to tell you about this building in Melbourne. But now, do you remember this period around the Super Bowl? And there was a huge build-up with Taylor Swift and this.
Yes, there was.
And yeah, and the guy that she was with, Travis Kelce. So they've already released documents after this to show that this was a sham.
It was all fake.
It was all fake. So I'll go to this one around this just a bit earlier. I think it was a couple of years prior. She brought out this video. This is one of her music videos, and she has a heart in which she starts stabbing the heart with a knife. Okay. I'm not sure if you've seen that one, but I know through looking at I was quite into studying Satanism for a lot of years, and Mark Passio, who former Satanist, he used to speak about this ritual called the destruction of care. And then I heard you bring up the second seal, and it says he will take peace from the earth. And this is exactly what Passio used to mention, as he would say there's three types of rituals. There's creation, destruction, and sex rituals. And this would be part of to imply some sort of destruction onto the planet or taking peace. But she's used it as a symbol of the heart. But at the same time, this is a national rugby league in Australia, Australian football. And for some ridiculous reason, they planned around the same time as the Super Bowl to go and play a game in the United States. And they called it Project Apollo. And it was all tying with Taylor Swift. So what I've started picking up with a lot of these rituals that they play out, there's this crossing that happens from the north to the southern hemisphere, and particularly Australia to America. And it's almost like they play out and bring this back to Australia. But I saw it as trying to end that, show the ending of the first seal and then bring it back to Australia. But do you remember, so with Beatlemania in, when was Beatlemania? Straight after the Kennedy assassination. And so what's been suggested by certain people that we know that the Beatles were a Tavistock Institute operation. But what you've mentioned before about how this energy build up and the focus of energy has to be released. So with the Beatles came straight after this Kennedy assassination, and they got all these young girls to start running and screaming, to the point where they couldn't even hear the Beatles playing. That's what the Beatles said. They couldn't even hear themselves playing because of this scream, and it was this primal scream of the woman that they played out this ritual of releasing that energy of the Kennedy assassination. It's been suggested by some people, but
That's interesting. I haven't heard that.
So this is what I wanted to bring you to, because then straight after she'd done this Vegas thing, and this was within days, she headed to Melbourne and she performed at this place called the Melbourne Cricket Ground. So I've got a good friend, and she's done a lot of research into ley lines and portals. And this, she suggested here that the MCG is a portal, and a lot of these sporting arenas are portals because they bring that focus of that energy.
Right.
All the ley lines feed into that area. But she's actually gone and performed, and you can see a ley line portal within there, within this picture. And the lady that's been teaching me how to spot these is you can see the curvature on the tree with these portals. But I looked at the reaction from some of the girls in the crowd when they saw her, and I just went, this is Beatlemania. Straight away, this is Beatlemania.
Can I offer you a scenario about Taylor Swift that may provide some clarity? You may know some more information after you hear this that would make sense to you. But when it comes to this organized ritual magic, I'm going to tell you there's a really good chance that Taylor Swift is just too dumb to even realize what her handlers are doing. All right, and what I mean is that long before I started Archaix, long before I ever started YouTube, it was Francis Barrett. I studied Francis Barrett from the 1800s. Man, I've studied Henry Cornelius Agrippa. I have gone deep into the occult philosophies. These were things that were really interesting to me because I had already exhausted the Hermetic literature, and I was seeking more. Most of the philosophers that I like translated into English, I've read them, and this was like my last deal before I started just going into publishing and started writing books and stuff. And one thing that I never left me was that when these covens, and I'm not talking about just females, when there's males involved as well, when these covens are doing these mass rituals, they will find a channel. It's a medium. It's a participant who doesn't even know that the ritual is about her or him, and they're there. And then when they are excused, an elaborate ritual goes on, basically informing the construct of what this ritual is. When this ritual is actually conducted at a future time, it will involve this person. And they'll do a small ritual with that person to identify them as the subject, but they don't even know what's going on. And then they leave, and then the real ritual preparation, which is called patterning. Then the patterning is done, and it's done so many times, the ceremony is done so many times to where the construct itself has no doubt what the outcome is supposed to be. All it needs is the channel. And that's when the channel, who would be Taylor Swift in this instance, actually does a concert, and there's trigger words involved that Taylor Swift doesn't know, link what she's doing now in a concert to a massive ritual that's been in preparation for months behind the scenes that her agents and handlers would know all about. They would know all about it, but she wouldn't. I believe that this method is being employed all over the world, and Taylor Swift's not the only one. Almost every music artist is involved in this shit.
Yeah, very well put. And even, it's like with voodoo too, and that being able to manifest this action component is the most important part. You dream it up, but you create the action, and that's why, these cults and stuff like that do the rituals. They're so systematic on how it's done, the date it's done. It's all about pattern and rigid timing and protocol. It's like a technology, but through that, you're right. They're feeding that into the field, and then the field will reward what they do. They're masters of that, right? But I would agree that these artists they're nobodies, right?
Nobodies.
All right, so I'll quickly get through this. Now, this was the one that you would obviously know. These stabbings that started occurring within England, but if you go to Taylor Swift, she's even back to this one. They're showing this reference of her being the heart, right? she's playing an archetype of the woman that trying to represent the heart, a distortion of it. But the stabbing that occurred was at a Taylor Swift themed dance club, and it says here the place is called the Heart Space. So I've gone and checked out this.
Wow.
This location. It was called the Heart Space, and guess what the street was, Jason? Hart Street. So they're really.
Yeah.
So I started seeing this all through Australia too. They're doing all these references in these stabbings and the stabbings are generally on girls. It's a man on women, and it's to use this energy that the female or care is under attack, or as it says in the second seal, what is it? To take peace.
And take peace from the earth.
So you're not going to take peace unless you're using the vulnerable and children. I just couldn't believe this when it was the Heart Space and Hart Street. And, you know, like Glastonbury in the UK too is said to be the heart chakra as well. So these ones, when you're talking about is this occurring in Australia and stuff too, and these localized stories. So I don't pick up much news outside Australia, the US, and probably the UK, but they've just raised the terrorism threat level for absolutely no reason, just recently in Australia. And this is just one example of these knife attacks. Now, Jason, these are daily. These are absolutely daily in the paper, and they're happening at shopping malls to the point now they're bringing in new rods to start scanning people's bodies. They've had to change laws that you can stop and frisk people. I know you had that in New York many years ago. It was unconstitutional. But what I noticed was there was a flip from stabbing a knife, and they're now using machete. I would say probably 60% of all these stories coming out now are not using the word knife. They're using the word machete, which ties in perfectly with that Greek.
Well, how do you pronounce it? Makira?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. Is it Makira? Makara? I don't know.
Makara, probably Makara. Yeah, the Greek.
But do you know what? Like when you found that out, it's such a fascinating find that how has no Christian theologian been able to translate the Greek to know that it's not a great sword?
I'm going to tell you now. I'm going to tell you why, Dale. Dale, it's because Judeo-Christianity has already provided 100 different Bible commentaries, Bible encyclopedias, all kinds of books like the Terry LaHaye Left Behind series. This is the problem. Our seminaries are churning out false versions of the interpretations of the book of Revelation, and it's done by design, every bit of it.
Yeah, and I guess that's the way it is, isn't it? No one goes back to the source material. It's and look, I'm guilty of that too. You just if it wasn't for you, I would never have made that connection. But then I was like, how are these Christian scholars not found this? You know, amazing. Okay, so this is a new rise now. So they're playing this off in Australia. We just had a new law introduced that the Roman salute or the Hitler salute has been banned, and it can be jail worthy. And this guy has done it out the front of the courthouse. So this is a guy called Thomas Sewell, and he's got a so-called neo-Nazi group. But this group keeps being thrown out anytime they want to bring in new censorship. And it's almost like they're promoting this group so much in anticipation for a Muslim attack. But I grew up in this small town called Bendigo. Now, we were 85% Cornish descent. So not just a white town. Everyone was from a small area of England. So it was a very white, conservative, traditional town. And all of a sudden, they decided they wanted to put a mosque in. And this was about 10 years ago. And everyone's like, well, you know, there's no Muslims living here. Why are you doing this? And they created this huge media uproar. But then what happened at the time is they started running counter-terrorism drills in this small town that I lived in. And I've done a lot of research into this guy, Tim Holding. And he's part of a group called the Strong Cities. And he was the emergency services minister, and he spent a lot of time over in America, adapting all these new protocols, like bringing in these, like all the airport security and stuff like that happened after 9/11. So he was a big player in doing this, and they've been running a lot of these drills in anticipation. But this is the big one I wanted to get to. So were you aware of the Sydney Bondi stabbings?
I do remember the incident. I never looked deep enough to know if it was real or not. I just remember the incident.
Well, it's this one was amazing. Now I've been a student of a man called Ole Demigard, who you should absolutely have on Archaix. He's phenomenal. He's one of the foremost researchers in the world on political assassinations, especially the JFK assassination. But a large part of his work has been able to uncover a lot of these attacks and staged attacks. And he actually coined it the global tour of terror. And he said that they would, through the intelligence agencies, would stage a lot of these events, and they would do them in a period of successions that one flowed on to the next. And they were using a small group of agents to do so, in which because he goes into the JFK assassination and a group called Operation 40, that they were using a very small group of assassins that were all responsible for most of the big assassinations that happened in America throughout the 60s. It was all through this one small coordinated group that they control. But this guy came in, he was wearing a football top, and this keeps being a theme too. Anyway, so they shot him. He stabbed a mother, he stabbed a baby, he stabbed a whole heap of people. There were media, excuse me, there were some of the victims that were connected in with the media and the military, which is usually the case. But I want to point out this bit here with the victim. Can you see the two shoes on the ground?
Yes.
So this is a whole different thing. I'm going to take you through a few different slides here and why they are leaving these shoes here. And I kind of want to hear your understanding, because you've got the biblical reference. But this is supposed to be a Freemason homage, that to stage a ritual, that one shoe is accepting that you are part of the ritual, and two is a homage to the sacred space. So they're making a real key note of this location, which was at Westfield Shopping Centre. And Westfield Shopping Centre was actually owned by a man, Frank Lowy, who was the co-owner of the World Trade Center with Larry Silverstein. So he's an Australian-Hungarian small hat, and very prominent figure in Australia. But this was I don't think he owns Westfield now. But straight after this happened, this was a very prominent and well-known Assyrian priest in Sydney. And he was up there giving his sermon. He's been very outspoken throughout the last 4 years about the overreach of the government. And he was attacked. This was a couple of days after he was attacked with a knife while giving his sermon. Just really, really trying to amp up that energy. But this is where the shoe term comes from. So this is the word for Holocaust, is shua in Hebrew. And this is what so when they do these attacks, it's like the Pavlovian dog, the classical conditioning. So when you show an event, stabbing, death threat, oh my God, what's going to happen? Then you present the shoe, and the shoe is like the bell in Pavlov's dog. It's the trigger. And what they've done since World War II is they've associated shoes with death. Like, you look up any of those photos to do with the so-called death camps and all that, and you're going to get pictures of shoes. It's always going to be shoes. It comes from this word, shua, right? But yeah, Jace, you would know this one, Jason, the Moses, right? So what did Moses do?
You're going to have to
remove.
You talking about when he went up the mountain and removed his shoes?
Yeah. So when he was speaking to the Lord or Yahweh, he removed his shoes. And the reason he removed his shoes is this is holy ground. And this is what I'm saying with a lot of these references, that they're making very key marker points on where they're doing these. So it says here, the removal of the shoe, excuse me, removal of the shoe is an ancient and accepted method of entering into a solemn and legal agreement. And you'll see this sometimes in other ones here. So this was one at the Westminster attack, and this was about 5 or 6 years ago, where there was one of these happening every second week. Now, Jason, if you've been attacked and stabbed on a bridge, like, do you take your shoes off? Is the first thing you do is take your shoes off? You know?
No,
so
no.
it's probably not what you'd be doing. But I'm telling you, if you look at any of these things, you will see this over and over and over again.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out how Trump lost his shoe when he got shot in the ear.
I'm getting to that. Yeah, so even I went to Budapest a number of years ago, and this is on the river. I can't remember what the river's called in Budapest. And this is another memorial to the Holocaust, right? So they're showing this shoe image all the time. And what I learned through, I guess like MK Ultra and ritual abuse and those sort of things that I used to look at was there needs to be a re-traumatization of the brain, that the brain wants to go back into a state of balance and harmony. But the way to keep the public in a state of fear is to continually re-traumatize. And that's why they're showing this shoe symbolism. But obviously, the Boston Marathon, it was a running race for starters. And then you got the heel or the sole is on the shoe, right? The name of the sole. But the foot is also meant to represent Pluto. And Pluto is said to be the unconscious, that we're entering into this Pluto and Aquarius period now too, which a lot of the repeating things that happened in the last Pluto and Aquarius cycle were the American Revolution, the French Revolution, and the Industrial Revolution, right? So, and this was a Trump one. When he gets shot and he says, "Oh, my shoe," and he kept referring to bringing back the shoe. Yeah. Do you remember that? You mentioned that before.
Yes, I do remember that. It was very unusual to me. That's what got me looking into the whole thing. I wasn't interested. It was all theater to me when I heard about it. And then the shoe incident is the reason I did those posts on Twitter, because I was like, man, this doesn't make any sense. So I looked into it and I saw the whole Freemason ritual with the shoe.
Well, exactly. And this is the one that we go back to here. It says the removal of a shoe is an ancient and accepted method of entering into a solemn agreement. So what's the agreement here with Trump? It means whatever was happening here, he was some way a participant in it.
Yes, he was.
Right?
Yes, he was.
A knowing participant.
Yes, he was.
So you might know more about these, Jason. So we've seen that entered into the apprentice degree. Now, this is from the Freemason site. Refers to the passage of roof, whereby the removal of a shoe symbolizes a binding obligation. So again, back to Trump, the removal of a shoe is a binding obligation. In the Master Mason degree, we are completely barefoot. The reference to our naked feet is not verbal, but something which differs in meaning from that of the first degree. The act of reverence for the sacred or holy ground, and that's what I said before with the two. So the passage from Ruth, it says, now this was a manner in former times of Israel concerning redeeming and concerning changing, for to confirm all things a man plucked off his shoe and gave it to his neighbor, and that was the testimony of Israel, right? So I didn't know about that one too. But this was if I go back to the Australian bushfire, we had this mass fire ritual, and people were extremely traumatized through what happened in 2019, 2020. It was, these were just huge. And they did a memorial ceremony for it. And of course they bring out these shoes again. And then these ones, Jason, I've actually seen, or my brother saw someone throw a shoe out of a car. And what Ole suggested is they throw these around in public, right? It sounds absolutely ridiculous, but Ole is convinced of this, that this is what they're doing, right? I'll skip.
I've seen them too. As a matter of fact, I have the entire, from the 1800s, I have the entire Freemasonic encyclopedia set. Let me look up shoe real quick.
Okay.
Let me look up, see what this says here. Hell, I got to see if I can get the right ones. It's like 8 volumes.
Amazing to have the Freemason encyclopedia on hand. How good's that?
Yeah. You know what? I got to see. Let's see. I guess we're going to look at Oh yeah, they would make it complicated. There's absolutely no all it is volumes 1 through 8. There's no to find S would have to be toward the back somewhere. So there's 4 more on the shelf back there, but
That's okay.
yeah, it's not even alphabetized. It goes by rituals. It goes through all 33 rituals. All right.
Maybe you could
Yeah.
send that to me after. You know, they've got other ones involving like the blue slipper, and this is what they call it, like the slip, is that you should be able to easily remove the shoe.
Right.
So this is one. I think this is like from it's like a Talmudic text. No, you know this one, Jace.
Yeah. I would really like to share that from in here. I would really like to share that from here, but I'm going to have to do some study because it does not at all have a referencing system like that. You have to look up everything by ritual. That's crazy. Oh, I do have an index right here.
You're not going to find the book quick enough.
Let's see, SH. Yeah. Yeah, that's going to require more a deeper look. I also have a book about this thick on all the symbols in Freemasonry, and I need to look at that too. Sometimes having too many books is a curse.
You've got to. I remember a good one I had. I bought a number of years ago. It was Tex Mars, Codex Magica. You know that one?
I read it. Good book.
Read it? Yeah.
I read it.
So yeah, I got that one many years ago. That was a good one. I used to go back and reference that.
He shows a lot about occult symbolism in there.
Yeah, all the different hand signals, and yeah. Sorry, I was just there's the Paul McCartney Abbey Road one too, right? So he was barefoot, and they asked Paul McCartney. They said Paul McCartney. They asked him on I think it was Letterman, and they said, "Why were you barefoot?" And he said he was wearing flip flops that day, and I think the road was too hot or something, or too cold. He's made up some excuse there. But that's the famous one with the Paul is dead thing, where he's smoking the cigarette in the right hand. But the key is he's not wearing any shoes, right? Mm-hmm. And so some say that the injunction is based on the Talmudic statement that a dream wherein a deceased person comes to take away any object is a positive sign, unless it is the object of a shoe. Since dreams are largely the result of one's thoughts while awake, the fear is that the wearing a deceased shoe will cause the person to think about it by day. So again, like that's saying you don't wear a deceased person's shoes, and that goes into the whole thing that Paul wasn't there. That wasn't right. Paul. But you'll see these ones too in a lot of these attacks with the missing one leg, right? The same thing there. Yeah. But the last one I really wanted to point out. I got sent this Katy Perry post. So she's done. So if I go back to the Taylor Swift one, all the stabbing started to occur in Australia after she'd come and done this concert, in which they had the reference to Project Apollo. Then they've come to Australia, and then they've unleashed stabbing after stabbing, with the key one being this Sydney Bondi one. Now, Katy Perry's just come to Australia too. And she'd done a big performance at the equivalent of our Super Bowl. But where she was before was she was at Rio de Janeiro, and she's like, we're coming to Australia. And everywhere she goes, she has this red heart that she's carrying around everywhere. And she very much is presenting as this Sophia woman, right, from the Gnostic text. And to be behind Christ the Redeemer. And it said that Sophia was the twin flame or the same soul as Jesus. So I just thought this was like a super, super interesting one, but they keep highlighting this with Australia. But then about a day later, Russell Brand goes and does this baptism by the water. So it's almost like he's playing out some sort of this Jesus-like character, and she's trying to play out this feminine-like character, okay?
Yeah, Semiramis.
Semiramis, yeah. So do you think that's Semiramis?
I don't know. It could. Semiramis taps into an actual historical person who basically took over after Amar Udak disappeared in the Huel Marsh. She became the empress. But you know what? I think I don't have the time to look into this. Maybe you do, but you just said something that kind of made me see a bigger picture for a second. You said the stabbings didn't happen until Taylor Swift came and did her concert. We have already ascertained that these concerts are highly ritualistic. And if patterning is involved behind the scenes and she's being used as a conduit to release energies into certain areas, I think you might find something very unusual if you follow the pattern of her concerts worldwide and see what happened within 30 days after each concert.
Yeah, it's a good point. And do you know what? With the Katy Perry one, she's done this concert in Melbourne, and
I'd follow her too. I would
yeah,
follow her too.
and the symbol, it looks like a 6'9", but it's really it's like a hurricane. And this was about a week before the hurricane in America. So she's gone and done that in Australia.
I think you might find a significant pattern if you followed what the major news events were within 30 to 40 days after each one of these major concerts by these type of personalities, because we already know the ritual. I mean, it's not just Katy Perry and it's not just Taylor Swift. They're just the bigger ones. But yeah, I think that would be very interesting. I think it would be an interesting study. The correlates that would be found would be shocking, because if you did that research and found something, I would most certainly have you back on Archaix to share all that.
We're gonna have a look at that now. There, but another thing I've noticed too, I've been looking at Katy Perry's Instagram, and she's very much, the way she speaks is very much New Age, and she's speaking about, you know, different parts of astrology, and she keeps saying divine feminine and all these kind of things, right? And kind of displaying as a Sophia figure. And then you've got Russell as well too, that's pushing this, you know, like he's flicked the switch big time, Russell. So yeah, I'm kind of just following them too, because I feel like there's going to be some merging of those two ideologies. That's how I see it.
We saw Russell in the 2012 Olympic ceremony. You know, it looked like he was playing two characters at the same time: the Mad Hatter and the Child Catcher. You know what I mean? He's leading the old truther bus. You know, leading them astray. And look at the humiliation ritual they put him through. It was all in the script of 2012 Olympics. In the 2012 Olympics, there was 3 women dressed as harlots dancing around him and all that. And then he dances with them, followed by 3 females dressed as police women who then grabbed a hold of him in the dance. Well, the same thing happened in 2020 and 2023. In 2020, was it 2023 or 2022, when Russell Brand was accused by 3 different women of sexual improprieties and was threatened with indictment. You remember that?
Yeah. Yep.
It was just a humiliation ritual. Nothing ever came of it. You never heard anything since. Never heard anything since.
Yeah, and
look at him. He's in his underwear. Come on, man. This is an actor. He's nothing but an actor. And he woke up one morning and he got a call from George Soros. And George Soros says, "Hey, man, you need to go ahead and convert to Christianity, and you need to do it publicly because nobody's believing that bullshit you're doing on YouTube, bro." Says, go ahead and make the switch. Shock value, and it doesn't matter if half of your audience doesn't believe you or not, because this is what you're paid to do. And because he is 33rd degree Mason, his ass did what he was supposed to do. Just like Candace Owen. Candace Owen is pushing that Christianity real hard, just like the third person you mentioned earlier. What was it? Jordan Peterson. Yeah, man. Yeah, all these are captured personalities. Yeah, and they all have their functions, and this is what they do. And nobody out there in ball huggers is going to be out there trying to represent a true Christian baptism. Not dressed like that. You're not.
Yeah, and posing for Instagram, and I don't understand. He's put this dog down the bottom too. I don't, but anyway.
Yeah, man.
The last one I want to talk about, just because I don't know if you have you seen this movie. This movie blew me away. Have you seen this? Adjustment Bureau.
Adjustment Bureau. I've talked about it on my channel. Yeah,
I missed that.
Dude, I never did a video called Adjustment Bureau, but I did one. Talking about Men in Black, and I mentioned this movie and the role that they play, and that how timelines are edited out. because Dale, I talk about a lot of different topics on Archaix, but ultimately, my core belief is that we're living in a construct that is governed by a very advanced AI that we created a long time ago. This is what I believe. And all the evidence points to the fact that this AI system is losing control because of a terminus point for which it has no control over. And therefore, in the last 100 years or so, the AI has allowed us to exponentially increase in our knowledge of how to manipulate forces of science, physics protocols, whatever, to get technology, because this is its effort at the transhumanism for those of us in the construct to build for it an avatar that it can inhabit, because that's really what it wants to do. It wants to be like one of us. This is my belief. This is what all these ancient religions, this is what all this patterning from the ancient past, all these timelines, cataclysm protocols, Nemesis X, Dark Satellite, Phoenix, everything leads to this conclusion that we're really close to a systemic reset. And we've been through many of them, but that systemic reset also resets this AI's ability to control us. And it has to start over just like we do. So that's why I think the world is so crazy as it is right now. It's the only conclusion I can make based off all the data sets.
Well, I came to that conclusion from a quite a different perspective, and I was looking at the jealous God. And for me, that was such a key thing. The two big ones are the jealous God and that we are born of sin. And for me, I went, okay, well, jealousy creates mimicry. So if you see certain people, Jason, that are jealous types, what they do is they don't try and express their own authenticity and be happy within themselves. They look for the dominant and they mimic it. So if you're looking at everything in a fractalized hologram that is an expression of this one thing, that if you're looking at an entire system of, say, what you call AIX, that it is mimicking, it's trying to mimic creation. Because no God is what do you got to be jealous of, right? And this is how you can see how certain algorithms and stuff like that are played out. They are done through mimicry, and what like what John Lamb Lash said, that he called it the great counterfeit spirit, was this God. But the reason while I've got this up here, Jason, do you remember this scene? He's going, name a number, and he'll go blue. Like before he can even answer, he knows the answer, right? He's trying to display to the Matt Damon character that he's reading his mind.
Right.
And Matt Damon is convinced that this man is reading his mind and he can't understand how. But then he goes and meets one of these other agents or angels or whatever they call them later. And he said, I'll meet you, but we're free to talk here because we're on water. There's something about water that scrambles their trajectory. And this, for me, goes to even the description in the Gnostic text of the upper aeon of, you could call it base reality, where it referred to as a fluid-like energy. So I just found that an interesting reference. But he says, how are they reading my mind? And he goes, they're not reading your mind. He said, they can't read your mind. And I thought, oh, this is big, okay? Because these are agents of AI. And then they're saying, he's going, no, we can't read your mind. Everything, he's basically telling him that it can read your trajectory. It understands what you're going to do before you're going to do it because you're so predictable. Your patterned behavior makes you predictable. Therefore, it knows what you're thinking, but it can't really read the mind. And ultimately, how he breaks free from it is he just is such an errant to the system. He just will not give up. He's not going to do what he's told. He's not going to accept his fate. He's writing his own, he's pattern breaking everywhere. And at the end of it, they say, well, the chairman's cut. They said, well, the chairman, who you could say is AIX, because you never see the chairman, and it says, well, the chairman's written a new plan. So at the end, like you said, that AI, it had to give up because his persistence in wanting to chase what he wanted and not what the collective program wanted was what freed him.
I agree. And the comment about water, Dale, is very interesting because um now there are esotericists that I don't really have a lot of communication with and crossover with because I have a pretty tight data structure that I stick to, and that is I need to be able to show it by a logic train or by a bibliography. So having maintained this precedent for my channel, it has gotten me a lot of respect in the community because many people order the books that I talk about and they find these things so they can see my charts, they can get a calculator, they can verify what I'm telling them. But there are other people who offer value, but they talk about things that I can never substantiate. I'll tell you one, Gigi Young. She
Yeah.
can't stand simulation theory, but I think she's an error because I don't think she's processing exactly what we're calling a simulation. But that's okay. That's okay. Dark Journalist is another one. Now, these two actually hark back to even earlier researchers like Don's always talking about Rudolf Steiner, and I can't stand it. Every time I hear, oh, but Rudolf Steiner's, man, I'm like this every single time I hear it. I'm like, man, I wish my eardrums could close. But you know what? That's our issue. Dawn and I really have a serious issue about that because I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. But then again, I don't want to disrespect her by saying, you know what, I go ahead and tell me whatever. I just don't want to because the man has other beliefs that are completely contrary as a chronologist for me to ever accept. But I accept those were his mistakes. He was a product of his times. I get it. He also made predictions that were dead on accurate. So I respect him for that as well. But what I'm referring to is that the mystic traditions that these three follow, Gigi Young, Dark Journalist, and Rudolf Steiner, they believe that a race of entities, not with avatars, bereft of avatars, had broken into this realm and they were sealed in here. Now that it's been quarantined, we actually live in a construct. It is a construct because it has been quarantined, which is actually a part of the Archaix model. I believe we've been quarantined to keep so there's no danger of cross contamination with the real reality. Everything happens here, it's contained. But in these mystic traditions, not only is another maybe an AI or a race of entities, jinn, spirits without avatars, whatever they are, they're here and they're working against us. They're trying to take over a world. The problem is that we're confined inside water. And the ancient model is true that beyond the sky, it is an ocean. It's an ocean above and an ocean below. And this is the model of almost all systems in antiquity that we're in a world suspended between firmaments, an ocean above. So what you just said about I didn't catch that in Adjustment Bureau about the water, but that's very interesting because it's also the picture we get in Dark City, 1998, where they find out that their whole world is actually a construct, but instead of putting it on the ocean, they put it in the deep. The construct was flood that keeps building the same city over and over and changing it up. So every day it's something a little bit different for the inhabitants. They don't realize the sky is a holographic projection and they're always looking for Crystal Beach. I think it was called Crystal Beach or some type of beach they're always looking for, but no one's ever been there to the beach because it's a construct. And it's the ocean of space in Dark City, 1998. Very, very good catch about the water. It's very interesting.
Well, yeah, the reason that piqued my interest because at that time I've been traveling through Central Australia, and I met a tribal man out there, and he told me his creation story, and he drew it in the red dirt. And what he told me, they call it whale dreaming, and within this story, that the whale came from the waters outside of where we are. It crash landed, created form, and then from this landing came the sun, the earth, and the moon that popped out. So they talk about, yeah, a mammal from the waters that came in. Now, of course, it's symbolic, but that got me on this whole train of thought of the mirrored reality, but also, but the importance of water and what water represents too, because water's not, it's not rigid. Water just flows. Okay, and this is that's for me the water, and what they say in the tribal stories is the whale represents intuition as well too. So the whale also, like within Noah or in the hero's journey, that the whale is at the bottom. That's the belly of the whale, and the whale represents, the deepest of the deep. So yeah, there's a lot of cool symbolism there. But yeah,
I love that movie of Adjustment Bureau. That's one of my top movies for people to watch concerning reality with Dark City. Also, what is that movie, The Island, where everybody goes to work? They're all trying to win the lottery because the lottery will get them sent. They all believe that the world has been destroyed and that only certain areas are habitable now. So they're living in this facility on purpose. And everybody wears suits. Everybody gets up in the morning, goes to work. They go to the chow hall. Everything's normal for them. And every day or every couple of days, there's a lottery. And that lottery, when they win the lottery, they're all happy. Like, yeah. But when the two people escape, I know somebody knows this movie. I believe it's called The Island. But
I haven't seen it.
It's an amazing movie. It's exactly what we're experiencing here. When they win the lottery, though, everybody gets discouraged, like, damn, I wish it was me, because everybody thinks that the winner's going to Paradise Island and that they're being rewarded for their work and service. And there's winners all the time. But then they find out later in the movie, the people that escaped found out that all the winners are actually having their organs harvested for their body double. They are a genetic copy of a famous person or politician out there in the world. And they don't even know that other person exists. They don't even know there's an outer world out there. And then someone in the comment section is going to say the name of that movie. I think it's The Island.
The Island.
Major character.
I'm gonna have to look that up. I'm definitely gonna watch it.
It is an amazing movie. And then the winners are actually going through they die. They have their organs given to all these people, and then two people, a man and a woman, they escape. I want to say Justin Timberlake, and I can't remember. I don't remember. Justin Timberlake's been in some pretty good movies.
He's not too bad actually. But you got me onto the Purge one, so I went and watched that. I haven't watched the rest, but I watched that. Was it Purge election year or whatever? I watched that one after you said that. But the other one I love, because this is very much how I see reality, is Inception.
Right?
You seen Inception?
I got a 200-pound dog out there telling me somebody's here.
I can hear it. I can hear it. 200 pounds.
I got a Rottweiler. He's a monster. I need to look out this window real quick.
All right,
I'm the only one on the property right now. Hey. Sorry about that.
What did you do? Did you give him some food?
Oh no, man! I would have to go to the barn. Yeah, he's not satisfied with a little snack. He's just gonna look at you crazy trying to give a little snack. Yeah, his dog treats are huge.
Yeah, that's the reason I love Inception. I don't know if you remember the final scene, and he's within a dream, within a dream, within a dream, within a dream. And I call these reality compressions. So I must look at the way that the hologram is structured, just through the fractal structure of a hologram, is that you must exist on all levels. And the question is how many levels is it, and how far does this go? So, and what level are we now? But that scene near the end, they had that little dreidel spinning thing, and this is like this elixir that reminds him that something's not right. And he said, "What is the answer?" And he says, "This world is not real." And he has this realization, and as he falls through, there's actually a kick, which is water. The water actually helps him fall back to the base reality. But the learning that's occurred in what appears to be hundreds of years in the final layer of the dream is instant on that level. And for me, that's what I feel like part of being in the sim is. It's an instant on that level. Once you go back to where you come from. But I do believe there is learning within this. There's learning within this construct, and what it appears eons of time or recycled time lives. is like it's
Yeah.
bang, it's instant on that level. It's this like merging and coming together, and this is why like I talk a lot about like balancing too and being able to look at all these different viewpoints. And this is what like I haven't gone through ancient texts like you have, but I see the same story everywhere, right? So you don't even need to be into. I guess like a lot of the stuff that you do and others, it points me to something that I knew innately, and you're able to look at all these different patterns. But that if that pattern is true, it's going to be true everywhere. And you're going to see it in movies because they have to stick to this formulaic pattern of the movie that we, that we hold that story innately. We know there's something about all these stories that follow this pattern that we know that has this core truth within it.
Yeah, I'm long before when I was a kid, Dale, before I ever even dreamt up anything that the Phoenix phenomenon is so bizarre and yet is so well documented that I was a kid before I ever came into contact with any of this information. And yet, as a kid, with my dad, I sat down and I watched what's that Miami Vice? The main character in Miami Vice, the actor, Don Johnson. Okay, one of Don Johnson's very first movies when he was like 18, 19, or 20 years old. Don Johnson was in a movie in like 1980, 81 called A Boy and His Dog. And the premise of the movie is that it happens like 5 or 6 years after World War III, nuclear war, and the world's a wasteland. And he goes through for 2 hours in this movie and you get to see what America is like after World War III. And the interactions and different communities that are spawned. And then you find out toward the end of the movie that the elite, the rich, the billionaires, the corporations, they've all been underground all that time enjoying everything. They've got everything down there, food, animals, they got each other, they're well dressed. And it's like a spoof. It's a movie that's a comedy, but it was very serious. And I watched this movie, and to me, it was just like everybody else. It just had entertainment value, but it's so deep when you know it, when you see it as a truther, somebody who's already gone through all the information and all the data that we have since 2016 all the way to now. The greatest awakening in world history that I know of is from about 2016 till now, 2024. This is when people are just opening their eyes and we're seeing things as they really are. So, having said that, that was followed by another movie that only in retrospect, ex post facto, have I been able to see with perfect clarity what that movie was really about. But at the time, it was just entertainment. That movie is Night of the Comet. When I saw Night of the Comet, even as a kid, I remember the hairs coming up on me like, wow. And it starts off with just 4 kids. 4 kids were supposed to enjoy with everybody in New York City the comet. Everybody's waiting on the comet. The comet's going to come, and instead they get drunk and they fall asleep in an old movie house that was previously a World War II fallout shelter. So it was laced in concrete and lead, and it's the only reason they survived. When they woke up in the morning, they missed the comet, but New York City was empty. When they went outside, all the people were gone. All the cars are in place, and they found piles of clothes and red dust over the entire whole city. Piles of clothes, watches, and this is one thing that I've documented in the Phoenix phenomenon. It is inexplicable, but on Phoenix years, whole populations have either appeared or disappeared, and red dust is always the common denominator. But Night of the Comet had government hiding in underground facilities, going to the surface to kidnap survivors to run tests on them. It had mutants who were partially affected, and it had people that had survived in similar situations that were just out there just trying to make it. It's Night of the Comet. It's from the 80s, but it's a good movie, and it's really close to Phoenix phenomenon.
It's like what was it within you that you had this, like, what were you drawn to as a kid? There's something else there, right? That's your true self, and sort of memory trigger as a child.
I don't know, man. My childhood was just, I watched a bunch of movies with my dad, and they never had any meaning to me. They were just entertainment value. But only only in the late 90s and early thousands to about 2004. That's when I made all my Phoenix discoveries. It was in that little 8-year window right there from 1996 to 2004. That's when I got my publishing contracts. I was still in prison. That's when I had come across all this calendrical research, and I realized that, damn, all we have to do is just switch over from year to day, and all these ancient calendars, all these ancient traditions, mythological systems, they all make absolute perfect sense. That's when I realized that the Earth Chronicles of Zechariah Sitchin has value as an archaeological record. You can get the traditions, you can get the archaeology out there. All you have to do is take a black marker, and every time Zechariah Sitchin actually says something, cross it out. And just use his research and know that he actually says, and you're doing pretty good with the Earth Chronicles. So that's basically what I did. I went through the Earth Chronicles. I went through a lot of older books like Eric von Däniken, and I crossed out all the ad nauseum verbatim, anything that their opinions, anything that they said, and I was left with when they cited this book on this tradition, when they cited this archaeologist about this finding, and when I was left with the core data, the truth just jumped out at me. Every 138 years, Phoenix phenomenon is happening. Every 792 years, the Nemesis X phenomena is happening, and every 395.4 years, the dark satellite appears. So once I just was fixed with the core data, I had that. Once I eliminated all the opinion, once I eliminated all the BS and just went with the facts, that's what I came up with. And then I wrote Chronicon. And then once I had Chronicon, that's when all these movies came back to me. It's like, wow, that was in that movie. That was in this movie. Man, Night of the Comet told me the whole truth from the beginning. This saved me 15 years reading. But yeah, man,
you weren't just wasting your time as a kid watching these movies. Where it's they all become relevant. But that's exactly my point. That the story's everywhere.
It's crazy.
I just want to. Can I do another share with you? Because if I don't share this, Nikki is going to crack it. Because
you know the procedure.
Hang on, let me see. Do it again. Let me see.
While you're looking for that, I'm going to address Mikhail Grum-Bovin. What is this fallout with Gigi Young? Jason used to like her. Okay, that's a little harsh. The word fallout is a little harsh. I still respect her. You know what? She's got her own thing going, and I do sympathize with her. And if she reached out and wanted some help, I'd even help her. I know that she's in North Carolina. I know they got hit pretty hard. She was in a hotel recently doing videos. Now, having said that, her dismissal of simulation theory without really understanding the context and understanding how in-depth simulation theory is, without actually reviewing the scientific paradoxes, without reviewing the calendrical information, all the minutia that Archaix has brought to the table, to totally dismiss all that just to say we can't possibly be in a simulation, yeah, that's a little too shallow. So I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed at all. Yeah, there's no fallout. It's just she and I are in great disagreement. Here you go, Dale.
Can you say?
Yeah.
All right. Now, I'm not sure if you remember, Jason, but you did a call. When was it? Maybe 6 months ago, for a group of us in Australia.
I did.
Yeah, and in that there was a woman, Nikki, who I've done 6 videos with, all around this building in Melbourne. Called the Shrine of Remembrance. So do you remember her speaking about that? You might not have. Was
that Nikki who contacted me and told me that she was researching this building?
That would be her. Yeah.
Yeah, I do recall.
So yeah, for those that are interested, because when Nikki started looking at this, we had really no answers. And Nikki's she watches a lot of your videos. She's all over your material, and it was quite intuitive that she was led to this building because she had a conversation with someone and they told her to get in touch with nature, and she found out that she was living in a granite area and that this was a granite building. And this led down a whole path of discovery around this building and some just very, very weird stuff and symbolism. And anyway, we haven't entirely quite worked out what it is, but I just wanted to point some things to you just in case you pick up on anything, but mostly to this one. I'll get to this later, but this is the key point of the building. And what it does at 11:11, it shines what is called the ray of light through the top of the building, which they refer to as the eye. And this is in the area called the sanctuary. But that's a picture of what it looks like there, and it says "Greater love hath no man," and it's like I would call it black. That marble in there.
It's like a human sacrifice verse.
Greater love have no man. So that's a Bible verse.
Yeah, it's a human sacrifice verse. It's greater love hath no man than to lay down his life for his friends.
That's right. So where's the exact chapter that's from in the Bible?
You know what? I'm gonna have to Google that real quick. I just knew the verse. I got hundreds of verses memorized. Can't tell you the numbers.
So a bit of the history here too. So Jason, this was built with 6,000 tons of granite by 6,000 workers that were all returned servicemen after. It was supposed to honor the World War One, the World War One soldiers.
All right.
But it's referred to as a shrine. There's many of these around Australia called, they're called war memorials and stuff like that. And actually, Prince Charles is visiting one in Canberra this week.
Okay.
This one is a shrine, and a shrine is meant to hold an ancient relic. So even the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem is referred to as a shrine too.
Right.
And it was 6,000 tons of granite, 6,000 workers, took 6 years. Or meant to take 6 years, but took 7 with a year off, right? So it's got this whole creation story embedded into it. And then this structure of the ziggurat roof that goes to the top. And at the top, you'll have here, this is in the sanctuary, it's got 7 by 7 squares in which the light shines through directly at 11:11, right? At this one time of year. So, and within the math of the building, they had 144,000 pages of math of 144 pages to do the mathematics to do this building. But it says here, you're standing on holy ground. And when you walk up to the entrance here, it says you are now entering holy ground. So there's this constant reference that there's something very, very important about this building. And what we found out too, if you can see, you might not be able to see, but there's a building here with a man's face. You know those buildings?
Oh, yeah, I see it.
So this is the building ports north, south, east, west on. It's got 4 columns, right? But so no structures around Melbourne, which is a very big city. It's about 6 million people, is allowed to impede the view of the shrine anywhere. They're not allowed to have any shadows going over it. And the garden, it's got all these Greek references. So it's like Alexander Garden. It's called the King's Domain that the shrine is on. And this man here was a man called William Barrack, who was he was an Aboriginal man, and he was an activist for Aboriginal rights and stuff like that.
You say his name is
William Barrack.
Barrack. Baruch.
I think it's Barak.
Well, it would be the same. Barrack is still. That's just phonetically the same. That is Semitic. It's 100% Semitic. It could be Arabian. It could be Jewish.
Yeah. So he was an Aboriginal man. Now all Aboriginals in Australia took on Western names, right? So whether he was or wasn't, I'm not sure. But the shrine was built on a sacred site. So this was a sacred Aboriginal burial site, and they found bones there. So it's almost like a mocking, but they've placed this for him to overview the shrine onto the King's Domain. But the history of it was this is a picture, and I'm not sure if Nikki told you about this one, but this was in Giza at the pyramid. So this is when the Australian soldiers were sent over in World War One, and what they did is they did their training in Egypt before they went on to Turkey and other parts of Europe. And they say this was when the nation was born. This is where Australia's got its identity from these soldiers in World War One. But they all did their training in Egypt, which is quite weird. And I have known that they do, that a lot of these military operations can be covers for other certain things that are going on.
Absolutely.
And yeah,
Absolutely.
so it was weird that they
Wasn't
were there.
Australia declared like a commonwealth in 1901 or 1902?
1901, it became a federation, became the
That's right.
Commonwealth.
I remember it was either 1901 or 1902. There was a restructuring of the government.
Yeah, and that interesting thing was the military was formed at that time too, and this building was commissioned by a man called John Monash, who again is a Jewish man, and he was the general in charge of the Australian military. And this building supposedly went through a vote, and 9-1 was they chose not to have it, but it was John Monash's decision to have this placed in power. So he was the head of the military, and a Jewish man as well too. There's a university named after him, but it's got, if you can see the flame here, right, Jason, of the eternal flame. They put these around a lot of buildings, but they used to have a water pool out the front. And what they did is they got rid of the water pool and then placed in the eternal flame. Now, I thought it's quite weird because for me, again, this whole thing seems to be some sort of portal that they're conjuring something and energy through this portal.
Look at the bottom of the screen.
Sorry?
Look at the bottom of the screen.
The bottom?
So, yeah. You see the comment that I posted here from the chat?
Barak. Yeah, B-A-R-A-K, B-D-B, mission. Okay.
Yes. See, a lot of times these public buildings, streets, even the names of cities aren't really named after real people. They're named to phonetically match something that area, the whatever energy they need for that area. So you're talking about this place being holy ground, take your shoes off, this is a sanctuary and all that. Well, you said it was that guy overlooking it was named Barak. So Barak and Barak would be phonetically the same, to bless or kneel. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's very interesting because he was said to be he was one of the main thorns in the side of the establishment and what they wanted to get past. And so, did he kneel, or are they mocking, saying that he had to kneel? And it's like Barack Obama as well too, right? Same. Anyway, so with the pool, Jason, they had this water pool, and you'll see this in a lot of monuments, even it's like this one in here. It almost looks like that 9/11 memorial where it's like broken down, but they'd have water on the inside. But they've closed off the water and brought in the eternal flame. But there's been a huge emphasis on this building in the last few years, and this was one of the first. I think it might have even been. There was one incident in Australia where groups have fought against the government, and it was the Eureka Stockade back in the 1800s. It was over gold taxes, but this was the only other time, and this was in 2021, where Victorian police shot rubber bullets at protesters at the shrine, and this was in the peak of the lockdowns, and so they'd cut off this building. So this is everyone comes to this building on Anzac Day every year, which is a day that we commemorate the lost soldiers of World War I and all other veterans, but like your Veterans Day. And people were locked out, and they said, no, you can't come in. And people were disgusted that happened. And then they actually turned and shot bullets on. So it's almost like they're charging up this energy. That was, completely unparalleled, that ever happening in Australia before. That's the other one within the sanctuary that I showed you before. And this is how the lighting works, Jason, at 11 a.m. on the 11th for the 11th, how it works through the building. So have you seen other buildings where this has been a theme before? Have you ever seen?
So daylight savings and position. So
yes,
Australia is what, 30 degree Australia 30 degrees south latitude. Is it 30 degrees south of the equator?
Yeah, down the bottom area is about 33. I know 33 runs a bit below Sydney.
33rd parallel runs through Australia.
Yeah. So, right. Jason, the other interesting one is this building is built on the 144 east latitude.
Really?
Yeah. So it's got the 144, and I can show you here. So this is, and they referred to the structure of the building when they did the model as the embryo. And they all through these books, when they speak about it, they speak of it as if they are birthing this building.
Yeah.
And here we've got either side. So if you can see this bottom left-hand corner, that's Melbourne there, and this is the Mornington Peninsula, and then the Surf Coast, and you've got Apollo Bay here, and you've got Venus Bay, and which the shrine meets right in the middle. But then we found an Apollo Inn, which is directly north on the 144th parallel as well, directly ahead of the building. I mean, there's so much, Jason, we've gone through on there, but you'll have to look through our other videos.
Well, the 144, you're going to find the 144 is merely a part of the expression of the Fibonacci series. You know, it's right. 12 squared. It's 12 times 12. So you're going to find 144 and its geometric equivalent, 1.618, all throughout Masonic, you know, Freemasonic patterning. Whether it's in a symbol, whether it's in like the spiral, the pentagram, whether it's in architecture, in the dimensions of a statue. Yeah, you're going to find references to 144 everywhere in the building craft. So that doesn't come as a surprise to me at all.
Okay. Yeah, and they even used the reference of it was 144 pages of math that whatever they had to. Yeah. Had to, but the new Katy Perry album is called 143. Now, what do you think that would represent? What comes to mind with 143? I can't think of anything except for it being a expression of 8.
Yeah, I don't know. 143 would be something that is whole, but something is incomplete. Something is missing.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
143 has no divisor. You know what I mean? So you're not going to find. It's like 12. Like 144 is 12 times 12. You're not going to get anything. You're not going to get anything to be 143. Now I don't know about gematria and I don't know about all that stuff like that. But when it comes to the Fibonacci series, 144 is not going to come up. It doesn't come up in the golden proportion. So the golden mean. Yeah. I don't know. It could mean variously anything really. I don't know.
So yeah, I mean, and even around this whole area, they've got like the Hellenistic gardens, and it's all this. You know, it's meant to be a war memorial for the Australian soldiers of World War I, and we have Turkish imagery in the gardens and monuments, the Hellenistic gardens, and then you've got these buttresses on all four sides of the shrine too that have got these, you know, lions and goddesses and children, and it's just it's a bizarre. And this is the aerial view of the shrine. And again, you've got 7x7 checkered floors out here. And then we kind of looked at this and thought, or I did, that it's almost like an embryo. And that was referred to as the embryo when in the model, but like sperm coming in. And this was a picture of that John Monash, and it's on the Australian $100 note. So the most significant, the biggest note, most expensive note in Australia has a picture of the shrine on that building, on that note.
Hey, go back to that picture, because if I'm not mistaken, all four of those almost Star Fort type walls, every single one of those is 17 walls put together.
What do you mean 17? Like
okay, you got your cursor. You got your cursor on that. If you count every plane, there's 17.
9, 3, 4.
I counted 17 on both of the small ones on the bottom.
11, 12, 13, 14. Oh, hang on, I have to do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Yep.
There's 17 on all four of them. There's 17 on all four of them. 17
now, Jason,
17 is 34, so you have 68. You have 68 walls that make up those four deals. So you need to figure out what the number 17, why 17 is important to that complex.
Well, yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, well, it's very coded with sevens as well too. Like I told you before, this is the roof that's got 7x7 in the roof. But yeah, thank you so much for pointing that 17 out, because this has been a constant theme And I've got a friend that does a lot of decoding, and she's just picking up constantly 8 and 11 and 17 in reference to Australia, in which she believes that there's could be a major attack in Australia, and it's connected to this number 17. Which
Jason
17,
Lewis. Jason Lewis says 17 is a prime number. That could be it. I don't know.
So I mean, 17 is the number of the flip, and it's in reference to the Bible, the book of Esther, in which everything that happens in the first half of the story is like a mirrored reality, is then mirrored. But what happens in the second half of the story is it's flipped. Everything that was planned for one group then happens to the others when the Jews are saved. So that's interesting. 17, because 17 is an 8. So 8's like this repeating loop, right? Okay, so this is a crypt, Jason. Now, supposedly the building was meant to be funded by the people through donations, and they placed donations into this kind of thing that looks like the Ark of the Covenant under the building. But then this is placed inside this hall. It's given no plaque or nothing. They don't suggest what it's for. Just that this building's on holy ground, and then eventually the taxpayers end up having to pay for the building anyway. So I don't know. What do you think of this, Jason? This structure? It's just in the back of the building.
Oh, there's no doubt. It looks like an Egyptian ark. There's no doubt.
Yeah. And so, is that your understanding too? That a shrine is different than a memorial or a temple because it holds a relic.
Yes, that's the purpose of a shrine. It wouldn't be a shrine if there was no reliquary. If there was no place where a special object was protected, it wouldn't be a shrine.
And this was kind of where we were theorizing here, this connection with Egypt and these soldiers that went over, these Australian soldiers, and John Monash, this high level little hat that came over to Australia and created this building. And
do you see any evidence in those photos? Do you see any evidence in those photos that that's actually 1915 or 1916 World War I? Because, I mean, we've been fooled before. Remember, they've got all these concentration camp photos that, they claim they're Holocaust, but they're not. They're World War I Polish and Russian people in these camps starved to death. None of them are Jews. So I don't know. Could these actually be from an earlier period like 1901 or 1902? Because the Boer War, I don't see, for Australians to be training in Australia has its own deserts. Why not train them in Australia? Why would you send them to the Great Pyramid unless in 1913, when in 1914? Because in 1901 and 1902, there was a war in Africa, and it was called the Boer Wars, and they were terrible. And they were concluded in 1901 and 1902. And that's when Australia suddenly became this Commonwealth of Nations or whatever. So I'm just putting pieces together.
No, thanks so much. That's interesting you made that connection, because in the shrine, in the basement, they've got different plaques and memorials, and there's a big one there of a stained glass window, and it's got some interesting symbolism. It's got the sword. It's got a Roman style helmet, and it's meant to be there, and it's in honor of the Boer War. So this is in the shrine building. They've also got one of the boats supposedly from Egypt as well too. But I mean, I don't know. As far as the pictures I've known from the past, that's what they call the Australian slouch hat, which was meant to be, that's what the soldiers wore back then, the slouch hat. But that's what we've been told. But this picture, if you can see up here, Jason, this was then charging in Gallipoli, in Turkey.
Well, I mean,
who's taking the picture?
Okay, that's what you're told it is.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying.
That's what you're told it is. But if that was truly a charge and not a training exercise, that's a dangerous place for a photographer to be, right there.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't have automatic pictures back then. The photographer had to man the camera. So it doesn't look like much of a charge. It looks like a bunch of men just right there and locally running, and the picture was taken. I don't know. I'm not doubting the provenance. I'm just saying that we've been fooled many times with these black and white pictures, and sometimes there could be as much as 50 years between. I mean, think about the Civil War, the American Civil War. Think about how unusual it is that we have beautiful black and white pictures from the 1850s. We've got pictures of horse races, foot races, trees swaying in the wind. We have pictures of sailboats, photography, black and white from the 1850s. Water moving, everything's fine, but suddenly we have no pictures of Civil War battles. None. We got one picture of 4 bodies bloated. We don't know if that's from the Boer War. We don't know if that's from the War of 1871. We don't know if that's in Europe. We don't know what that was. But it's amazing to me that we have so many black and white photos from the 1850s. And yet when it comes to Civil War, all the Civil War experts tell us that, well, they couldn't really they couldn't photograph things that were moving. Things had to be still. Well, what about all the photos from the 1850s where they were moving? Water and sailboats and horse races. So we've been fooled before. And officially, the United States only endorses about 60 photos from the Civil War, and not one of them are a battle. Not one of them on the official U.S. government website. So I don't know, man. When it comes to pictures, this is the problem. This is what you've been told these mean, but these could very well be from the 1890s or from all the way up to 1902.
Yeah. And I mean, we do. I mean, you would picture that they are Australians because they do. There's a picture here with a kangaroo, if you can see this one here.
Yes.
And there is said to be hieroglyphs of boomerangs and stuff in Egypt and stuff too. So how long was this going on? And then we've got the Gosford glyphs in Australia, which are these Egyptian hieroglyphs on the east coast, just north of just south of Sydney, just north of Sydney. Sorry.
Yeah. The kangaroo being in Egypt. That's I don't doubt these are Australians. I'm just saying that for an Australian military contingent in Africa doesn't make sense to me for World War One, but it sure makes sense to me for the Boer War because Australia and South Africa were allied, and South Africa is where the Boer War was taken off. So I don't know. You know me, I question everything. So
yeah, the thing is, because around this time, this was the British Empire had ruled for quite a while here, and this was almost at the end of World War One. This is when they partitioned off all the Middle East, and they balkanized all these countries, and it was kind of almost the end of the empire. So we're almost making suggestions that are they setting up this new empire into Australia too, and is some part of it got to do with the significance of this building. And if you look at Melbourne at the bottom of Australia is closer to the tip of Antarctica than it is to Darwin, which is a city in the north of Australia. So, we are very, very close to, that southern part of the construct, not the southern part, but you know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah, so
I can offer you an interpretation of the why of this structure in the building. I may not be correct.
Please. Yeah.
But this arc being here, that arc is only associated to one people. The Freemasonic institution is subservient only to one people. And I would not be surprised if somebody was to come forth with a whole dossier of proof showing that this structure is just like many other structures in Western nations, that when Zionists actually take over, secret takeovers happen all the time. When they actually take over, like they took over Washington, D.C., they actually build these structures as a monument of occupation. And yet the patrons of that country, the actual residents of that country, are left in the dark as to its true meaning. It's like the Statue of Liberty. It's never was a Statue of Liberty. It's never been a Statue of Liberty. It is a statue of Apollo, who is highly venerated in the Masonic rituals. So this is me.
Yeah, you've triggered something. Thanks again for bringing that up, because if you're talking about a takeover, do you know what the Australian Army was famous for doing in World War One? One of their main they went in and supposedly liberated Palestine. They took Palestine from the Ottoman Empire. It was the Australians.
So the Australians were working with the British under the Balfour Declaration.
Yes.
So under the Balfour Agreement, they were a part of that too. That makes sense now. Absolutely. That would definitely make sense as to why they would have been in the region.
So they sent in. Yeah. So I mean, the famous battle in was the Australians got slaughtered in Gallipoli in Turkey, but there was that is known that it was a decoy mission, and they basically were just getting mowed down, but for other operations to take place. But one of the operations was they did supposedly liberate Palestine from the Ottoman Empire. So it was. That makes a lot of sense now when you said, and knowing that the person that put this building to go ahead was John Monash, who was a Zionist. So yeah, and he was the commander of the Australian military. So yeah, here's some of the relic. Oh, this is in the gardens down below. So they got all these Greek and then Turkish monuments out in the gardens in Alexander Garden. And but anyway, this one here. So they lit it up for the Queen's Jubilee too.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's the other one? So yeah, this is one of the early construction buildings. This is all we could find. There's one I haven't got it here, but I think there's one of the foundation, and then there's this, and then you can see the ziggurat roof wasn't added yet. And
do you know the year of this photo?
Well, it was built 1934, so it's near. It have to be around that period. That's 1934 was the completed construction. You'll have to get Nikki on because Nikki knows this building inside out, Jason, and she's got phenomenal knowledge on this. I can only really touch on the surfaces. But where you enter into the building now, you're going multiple layers below this structure, and the structure sits up on a mound. So
it certainly has a substructure. There's no doubt.
Yeah. That's you go into it when you go and visit now. It's a museum at the bottom, but they said there's suggested levels below, and there's references in this book that there was a bell. There was a bell in the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's more than welcome to come on the channel and show what she's got. No doubt.
You'd have to.
There's no doubt.
Nikki's all over this. But the last couple I wanted to show you, Jason, just because I absolutely believe that this is a portal space here, and that they're trying to conjure up through certain ritual or whatever, and just the focus on this building. And I feel like this picture that happened here, where did I get at the start? This one here, this was a big traumatic event when police turned and shot rubber bullets at Australians. This has never happened in Australia. You know, we're not used to guns and stuff like that in America. That is not what happens here. And this was it was an absolute shock, and people could not believe this. But to choose it to happen in this location, and what I believe portal spaces are to be used for heightened energy, it feels like that needs to be released.
It sounds to me that the Australian government's a captured operation, just like the United States.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just like Britain. I mean, Britain's been a captured operation. London doesn't even belong to the English people anymore.
Well, so in Australia at the moment too, like you know, with the rate of immigrants you're having coming into the US now, we're bringing in 600,000 a year into Australia, which if you do on a per capita, that's the equivalent of America bringing in 15-20 million. You know, these are huge numbers that we're bringing into Australia. It's and if you look at the resources of Australia, we've got the most coal, uranium, iron ore. We've got it all, and we are taxed to oblivion, and we're not allowed to use any of our own resources. It's 100% captured. But the reason I'm showing this one, Jason, is because I think this is a portal space here, and I've been able to be trained by this lady, Rachel Vaughan, who's beautiful, does these courses on how to spot these ley lines. Now, I took this picture here. It's just down the down near the beach near me. Now, there's a technique to seeing these, and once I started seeing these, I can see these directly out in the bush now, or out in the forest. And if you see here, the technique is to relax. Remember those magic eyes? Remember those magic eye books?
Yeah, I do remember those. Yeah, it used to
Yeah.
give me cross-eyed. It used to get cross-eyed looking at those. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the same method that you would use the magic eye, you do that with this, and it's basically just a technique of relaxing the eye, but you can do like slight cross-eye for a bit. And what you can see is you can see an indentation of this energy, which is a circle. Can you see and what will happen is this is actually a ley line. So this is an energy line, and a lot of these will be built on certain pathways like this. And the reason the pathway is there, they've built the pathway because the line is there. And the line is there because a lot of the animals will actually travel along the path of these ley lines. And the Aboriginals over here refer to them as song lines, suggesting there might be an auditory component to it, but they would use these to traverse country, for generations. This is how they were able to locate places. And a lot of these lines will then feed into open bora rings or portal spaces that are high energetic areas. And this is what I'm suggesting, that the shrine could be built on one of these. But if you can see here, this one's quite clear, Jason, the circular. But I might try. Can you? Where's a good one here? Now these are all from Rachel Vaughan's page. Can you see over here on the left?
Yes.
If you do that cross-eye, can you see the way that the trees are bending?
I can see it.
Yeah. But see, then she circled here. This is what Rachel circled, that there's actually a bigger one here, if you can see that too.
Mm-hmm.
So that is actually this smaller one feeding into this bigger one here. So there's a couple other examples. You'll see them along a lot of pathways. And they say this is how they built the Roman roads. The Roman roads were built by actually following the energy lines. And when you got the big portal spaces, you got places like St. Peter's Square in the Vatican, and other places around the earth, and why they choose to do certain things on these certain portal spaces. So anyway, that's just my suggestion, that they're trying to use the energy of what that shrine is to conjure something up.
It's interesting. The research I would like to see, I would like somebody to like I said, I have all these suspicions, but I don't have the time to look into a lot of this stuff. And one of my suspicions for a long time concerns these ley lines. Now, I understand in 1553, 1554, and 1555, Gerardus Mercator had basically he mapped the entire known world at the time, and they established later, based off his maps, the Greenwich mean, and they put 0 degrees. They put the 0 degree prime meridian right there through Greenwich, England, but that's not true. The ley lines don't even match up to the longitude and latitudinal lines that we have today, which is completely contrived 500 and something years ago. So I would like to see someone grid out the world using the Great Pyramid as prime meridian, 0 degrees, 0 degrees, 0 degrees longitude, which would be the prime meridian, and then latitude it out from there and see what the ley lines or see what all the ancient sites in the world line up to once you use the Great Pyramid for its original function pre-flood, which was 0 degrees longitude. It was the center in all the ancient texts. It was considered the center of the world. So that's all been changed. I would like to see where all these ancient sites line up to in proportion to the Great Pyramid on a grid system. I just haven't had time to do it. I got hundreds of projects, Dale, always in the mix, and I never can entertain but one at a time.
Well, yeah, look, like credit to you, Jason. I don't know how you do as much as you do, and your tenacity to keep going and not stopping. So credit to you. But yeah, it would be, that'd be amazing if someone could do that.
I'm pretty sure just talking about it in the video, somebody's going to get on top of that, and somebody's going to get on top of the other one I mentioned earlier about the Taylor Swift concerts and the what was her name? The other one, Katy Perry concerts, and follow those concerts nationally and internationally, and see what happens within 30 to 40 days after those concerts in those same areas, because we might have tapped into something here. It's a whole new rabbit hole.
Beautiful. Well, yeah, thanks for giving me some insight on them. It's given me a bit to think about, and I know Nikki would have got a lot out of that. So
yeah, tell Nikki to explore that aspect of 17. There's no way that they're going to make 4 courtyards of that size, 4 courtyards of that size at the cardinal points to form a cross, and that each one of those courtyards are going to be made jagged and uneven, but each one of 17 planes. That's definitely got some meaning.
Yeah, so they were introduced. I got to think how many years ago now. It might even be about 17. But interesting, Jason. They've been building an underground rail system in there, right near the shrine. Now the name was going to be called Domain, not the Domain, Domain, which is I think Domain is to the Lord. But the Domain station, which has now been called Anzac Station, it's about to open, is 17 meters in height. And I just looked that up the other day, yet to open. So it's interesting that you bring up that 17 because I'm just seeing that everywhere.
Jason W. Lewis, I'm gonna put his comment on here. I can't catch him fast enough. There he is.
17 is.
You see that?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what the meaning is. I'm just saying it. It's I know 17 is associated to the Q psyop.
Yeah.
Hey, if I offend you, because you follow Q and all that stuff, I apologize. But I'm gonna tell you now, you keep on trusting the plan. See where it got them, and see where it got the Romanovs and all their people.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, that's right, because Q's a 17th letter. That's why they say it's connected to 17. But
yeah.
Area 51 is 3 17s as well. So 3 17s is 51.
Yeah, so I don't think the number of walls to put those courts together being 17. I don't think the meaning is going to be found in gematria. I think it's going to have a deeper meaning. I don't know, but this is Australia, not the United States. So the meanings that in the United States that we would attribute to it may be different there. But then again, if we're going to attribute an international meaning, then Dale, I'm just going to have to link it to Zionism.
Yeah, and of all the places in Australia, the place where they have made the salute illegal is in Victoria, Melbourne, where this building is. So that's the only state to make it criminal to do a certain hand gesture. And
that's really interesting because they know reverse psychology is how you induce a population to do what you want them to do.
Oh, they're pushing.
When you outlaw any certain activity, you create that activity because underground now everybody wants to do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's Zionist control for a long time. They even had the state government's cybersecurity firm is Israeli Mossad Front that runs all the cybersecurity for the government, and we've been having little blackouts. We had one about a year ago, and because my provider Optus, that you had no one had internet for it was about a day. So they're continually doing these preppings, and they're having through big institutions like banks and stuff now that there's data breaches and people had their money stolen and people lost. They're constantly prepping all that kind of. That's what I think it's really leading to. With not just these stabbings, but also major infrastructure attacks. And this is what when I told you before about the man Ole Demigard that pointed out all those shoe things many years ago. He uncovered a plan in 2019 through certain key people within NATO, and he's followed these people for years undercover. And he's had to flee multiple countries, had his life threatened. He's had people around him that have been killed. And what he found was a plan for 39 cities to be attacked within 36 hours within Europe. So he said multi-state, multi-city attack. And I kind of put that on the back burner for about 5 years. And then when I started listening to your decoding of the second seal, I'm like, I think a lot of this is really going to tie to what happens with Israel. And we're seeing things amping up there now. And I think you hit the nail on the head when I got like a shiver when you said, I think the Dome of the Rock is the target.
Yep.
And that could be the catalyst that triggers a response. And what you will see is these uprisings or stabbings will be, these will be intelligence ops, but they'll be
Yeah.
seen as a response to something Israel has done. And
Yeah.
again, the
Good.
Dome of the
Genius
Rock,
plan.
yeah,
It's
the Dome of the
genius.
Rock is a shrine as well too. So this is why,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see what happens. But
Yeah.
if you followed these terror attacks for 10, 15 years, and they were always London, Paris, Stockholm, and Melbourne. These were the Manchester. There was a few others, but they continually do them, and they're telling you where they got the strangleholds. And Melbourne is one of these places.
Yeah. Yeah. Next year, 2025, it's the year 1447 after Hijra. This is in the Muslim calendar. And anybody who has followed my Chronicon research will know that cross-calendrical parallels are very real. What you find in one year, in a certain year, is often paralleling the exact same events, but for a totally different people in a different region of the world in a different calendar. Calendars are amazing. They're just products of programming. And in the year 1447 BC, we had a massive exodus of peoples, not just the biblical version. When we look into the secular history, we find out that the Tuatha Danann, the people of Danu, they left in fleets from Egypt before they even joined Mill of Spain, before they even left Mill of Spain and went to Ireland and defeated the giants called the Furbolgs. But they were just one massive fleet that left. The fleet of sea crops left too that founded the ancient Greek civilization and began building Athens. And then Athens became powerful very, very fast from this huge influx of people that made their exodus from Egypt. So powerful that the Sea People's Federation were now threatened at their city of Poseidonia, which is, of the story of the Atlantis, and they sent their fleets to attack. So we have this massive chain of events that happened in the year 1447 BC, but we have an overland exodus, and this is the biblical version of all the Amuru descended people that left overland and went to northern Syria and Phoenicia and all that. So 1447, though Islamic Hijra, after Hijra, this concerns Islamic peoples, Muslims. So what I see happening in 2025 is a massive exodus of Islamic people who are playing a role. It's going to be a violent role. They've been put in all these Western nations, and then there's going to be a catalyst. And what better way for Israel to completely get everybody to forget a missile exchange between them and another country, and the Dome of the Rock gets blown out bits, yeah. and they militarize the area. Then they come in there and they start building the temple while all the Western nations are preoccupied with house cleaning because there's attacks on infrastructure. There's all kinds of attacks. What better way to make a new version of socio-political Christianity that supports Zionism rise to the top than have all these people of all these Western nations victorious against the terrorists who are in their country attacking water, attacking electricity, attacking neighborhoods, machine gunning parking lots full of people, doing all this stuff. So 2025 seems to be what all this is building up to. And in the calendar, it's 1447 right after Hijra. So this is not going to be a good year for Islam at all, next year. It may look that way initially, but no. Even with all these migrants, there's not enough migrants in any of these Western nations to actually take over the nations. I don't think it's going to be allowed to go that far. It's going to be chaos, pandemonium. Yes, people will die. Infrastructure will be collapsed. But then heroes, socio-political, new Christian Reich Zionists will come to the forefront. They'll be our new heroes. We're going to elect them. We're going to put them in positions of power. They're going to get the infrastructure back going. They're going to now create nationalist societies to where now the borders are going to be protected. Yeah, I foresee this coming 100%, but it's all still under the same regime of control. It's just the people are going to think there's great change, and there's no change at all.
Yeah, well, this is what I've been saying with the push of the LGBT stuff. It's got to such a ridiculous extent of what they're doing that no one could support it. And you saw what they did at the Paris Olympics, with the opening ceremony and all that. And it's just complete mockery. But it's not about pushing that agenda. That's way too in your face. It's about pushing the polar opposite. It's drawing people to the counter. Look,
Absolutely, absolutely. Look, I have some gay friends. I've got some friends, lesbians, gays. Listen, they don't like this shit either.
no,
They
no,
don't like the way this
no,
is being flaunted out there. They feel that they're being targeted because this has gone way beyond. And you're right. It's having the opposite effect. It's causing people to flock around conservatives who are speaking against it. You're right. Right.
yeah, it's just targeting the imbalanced psyche of people because they don't have the time to sit and sit and be with themselves and come to their own conclusions, and they regress back to their traditions of what they knew as a child and their religion and their ideology and trusting what they know is certain within their religion as well too. But I mean, it's so
I want to address this right here because listen, didn't the government just authorize legal force against Americans same day as their last bog, hurricane, whatever? I need to address this because people say these type of comments all the time, and they really don't understand the infrastructure for that has already been laid out many years ago. The Anti-Terrorism and Effective Death Penalty Act of 1996 in the United States already allows the U.S. military and government to kill its citizens legally. That's all. That's already been. Any new laws that are publicized that talk about these things are done to enrage you. They are done to make you mad, to piss you off, to induce you to act, to say something stupid. But if you think this is new, it's not. Guys, you got to understand. When I was in prison, I studied law. I studied tort law. I studied federal law, and I got to read all these legislative acts. And I found out a long time ago the Anti-Terrorism and Effective Death Penalty Act laid the groundwork for the Patriot Act. Then the second Patriot Act 2. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the U.S. government already has the authority to put you in concentration camps. It already has the authority to execute you, cut your head off, and it doesn't have to answer to anybody. All of this has already been laid out by the Bushes, Bush Sr. and then Bush Jr. They'd already done that. They have even laid out the infrastructure to retroactively apply whatever laws that they want to legislate. They can create a law today and then make it retroactive. And if you've done anything in your past that shows that you violated this new law, you can be executed retroactively. If you don't think these laws exist, it's because you haven't done your homework. I never really talk about this because I don't care. I'm living in my own little world. I'm living in my own little world. And I'm making my own little reality tunnel, and I'm not participating in dungeon programming. But if you don't think that the collective, all this already exists, it does. It does. These are congressional acts, and they're already effective. Anything that's publicized right now is just to bring these things to your attention, because this is the apocalypse when all things are brought to the light.
It's not only that. Obama actually applied the National Defense Authorization Act and killed U.S. citizens abroad
Yes, he did.
with no trial. So it's
what they did at Ruby Ridge. Everybody knows the story of Ruby Ridge. Yeah, they went in there and killed that family. That was a part of those acts. What they did to the Koresh compound, David Koresh. I was in prison watching the TV, watching the whole thing unfold. I accepted the actual. Well, at that time, I wasn't awake then. I was still a Southern Baptist Christian. I watched the news and I accepted that, although something was funny. Then I read some books later on and found out that the first two federal agents that died a week earlier were Hillary Rodham Clinton's Secret Service bodyguard protectors. What the hell was her Secret Service detail doing over there in the Koresh compound? The first two guys killed. What did they know that they had to be eliminated? So, I mean, yeah, all these things. I don't even care about none of this stuff no more. It's all water under the bridge. But anybody who thinks that there's any laws that have to be passed in order for governments to do what they do, no, there's not. All that's already been done. They're already effective. They're already in place. Every one of them. Still with me?
I'm here. How you looking for time?
Damn, 2 hours and 12 minutes. Man, that was fast. That was really fast.
Like I couldn't go too much longer. I gotta go to the bloody toilet soon.
Okay, cool. Let's wrap this up. But I got one question for you before we go.
Shoot.
3 people in the comment section mentioned November 8th. Am I supposed to know something about November 8th? Is there a plan for November 8th? Because I'm unfamiliar with it.
There's a lady called, it's an Instagram page called The White Pill, and she's done a couple of videos. So I'll alert people to the YouTube channel Be Free with D, and she did a video with her about 3 weeks ago. It should be the top video, and I think it's called Understanding the Layers of the Heart. And what she's trying to decode, Jason, is that she's suggesting that there's going to be a 9/11 style attack in Australia.
Wow. On November 8th, huh?
Well, she's not 9/11, 8/11. So, and there's a lot of coding around, and the way she does it is she sees everything through the layers of the chakra body, as well as the planets and stuff, and the symbolism around each. And she's actually a former pretty hardcore Christian too, that was, but now isn't. And it's even the 7 seals, Jason. It kind of, a lot of it ties into that, but with the 7 chakras and the 7 seals. And the way that she sees it is things are, I don't want to speak for her, but like things are birthed out of the solar plexus, which is in Australia. If you notice, a lot of the attacks are on the East Coast, and she believes it's going to move west. So look, time will tell. But there is a lot of interesting symbolism around it. But I couldn't be able to make it of worthy. So I'll just say people should go check that video out.
Okay, cool. I just didn't know. I just wanted to ask because I saw 3 comments. But Dale, this has been an awesome talk.
Thanks,
Believe
mate.
me, I have gone to the edge of a full bladder many times and had to stop a video. So I understand you, man.
Yeah, well, I've watched you, and I'm like, I don't know if I could sit there and drink coffee and do a 3-hour. If I drink coffee, I've got to go every hour. So,
man, I've already drunk. Hold on, I drank 2 water bottles and a coffee just sitting here talking to you, man.
Oh, you got a strong bladder. You must be good.
Well, I don't have. Yeah, I can hold a lot, but when I got to go, I got to go. So I just have a rule. I will always drink 2 bottles of water before I drink. I drink coffee all day, but I will not drink them back to back. I will drink 2 bottles of water after a cup of coffee, which gives me an excuse to go get another cup of coffee. Yeah, coffee's a major staple of my diet.
Yeah, I'm coffee and eggs, Jason. That's me.
It's my only addiction. My only addiction. But Joe, I'm gonna go ahead and sign off, Dale, and I'm gonna invite you back sometime if you would care to forward to Nikki that I would definitely have her on my channel if she would like to discuss that architecture some more and maybe show me some more pieces so I can look at it. And other than that, I'm gonna go ahead and sign out. And you're more than welcome to come back when you got something to talk about. When you got something you want to share.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks, Jason. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, it's good talk. Cool. Good talk.
Thank you. I'll have a good day.
Say, check out. I'm gonna go ahead and remove you from stage, and I'll see you later, Dale.
Thanks, mate.
Hey, check out Dale Holmes. His links are in the description box. That was a great chat. I didn't know what to expect. I've never talked to him before. I was just being nosy, and I was looking on his Rumble yesterday. So I see that we got a lot of things that we're in agreement about, but that's not what it's always about. Because just like me and the old Steiner issue, not always going to agree, and sometimes I don't disagree. I just don't want to hear it. But that doesn't mean we can't chat. We can't talk. So, having said that, I'm going to hit this outro and check out Dale's links in the description box, guys. And I will see you guys real soon because we have a Nemesis X chronology trilogy of videos, 3 videos back to back. That's how much data we have on Nemesis X returning in 2046 in the month of November. Till next time, guys. Let me find this outro. I'm gonna do a different outro today. I am.
Members of the media.
Some members of the media.
Some members of the media use their platforms
to push their own personal bias.
To push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Unfortunately, some members of the media.
Some members of the media.
Some members of the media.
Some members of the media use their platforms
to push their own personal bias.
To push their own personal bias and agenda
to serve our Treasure Valley communities.
The El Paso, Las Cruces communities.
Eastern Iowa communities.
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about the trouble and irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.